clearly we're not spinning through space at however many stupid miles an hour. Where do you think we're actually living?
Well, we're living in a massive torus field. Simple. Everything is torus fields. There's no other form.
Okay, so I've seen your some of your work on that. How can you explain that to somebody who is a global Earth sort of person? Is there a way to explain that for a person who even doesn't know what a torus sort of looks like or any of that?
How do you explain to people? Well, I would say read the ancient Greeks and Babylonians in particular, those two, and read how they explain that the Earth's torus field solar system universe is suspended in water, air, they don't know. It's not space, but it's water or air. They were arguing for centuries, the Greeks. What is the Earth suspended in? Is it water, as Solon and all the really ancient Greek, like Hesiod, said it was, or the new guys like Anaximedes and all of these other sort of more towards Plato and Pythagoras era, they were saying it's air. So, I mean, gravity, as they teach it, is hocus pocus. But things do suspend in our solar system in the air. We can do that. We've got what's called anti-gravity devices, have had all the time. We've had them all the time. So we know how to we know how to suspend something and keep it in the air like that, just like that. So if we know how to do it, I'm pretty sure the creator knows how to do it.
Well, yes. I mean, that's an interesting way to put it. I mean, it seems to me that gravity is a description of density. If you've got a kilo of helium in a bottle, that is going to go downwards. If you free that helium into a balloon, it's going to go upwards. So it seems that density is what gravity could be explained as. Do you think?
Well, it is. It's density. I'm denser than the air. Therefore, I'm going to be going in this direction, down toward the Earth. Helium is lighter than this medium, the air, and it goes that way, and gravity's got nothing at all to say about it. Gravity just sits there and goes, yeah, we can't do anything about helium and hydrogen and all of these light gases because, well, we don't really exist. So it's absolutely fucking ridiculously ludicrous that people can't understand the density of the medium. If I'm in water, I'm going to float and I'm going to move slowly because it's a thicker medium. It's denser than air. In air, I can do this. I can move, I can eat, I can sleep, I can run, breathe, and live. So I'm heavier than the air, duh. Well, then I'm going to go down and stick to the earth. It's density and buoyancy, density and buoyancy. If you're going to use gravitation, I don't mind the word gravity. It exists. The word exists. But the theory of Isaac Newton, well, that's a theory.
Exactly.
And if we take that seriously like a fact, then we are a fucking idiot. I'm sorry to use that beautiful French word. So,
So can I ask a couple of relative questions? How far away do you think the sun is?
It ranges between 100 miles and 3,000 miles. Now, that's very, very, I don't know, I guess you could say vague, but no one knows, because how high is a rainbow? Well,
if it was 100 miles away, would you not be able to triangulate it in some way from the Earth?
well, you can, but not to the very, you know, millimeter or mile. You can't,
Right.
because, yeah, because what you're triangulating is not physically there.
Right. Okay.
It's like the rainbow. You know, you can't triangulate. Has anyone ever triangulated a rainbow?
Yeah. No, clearly not. Yeah.
Because you can't, because it's not there. You're seeing it, but it's not there. Right. So the sun is the same. It's a condensed rainbow in a round, not spherical, in a round shape, because that is how it appears to our eyes. But it's not round. It's hexagonal. And it is a portal. It's not a thing. It's a portal. A portal is a door. You know, a doorway. Is a doorway a thing? You know, can you grab a doorway and put it in your pocket and save it for later? No, because it's the doorway, the surrounding of the doorway is there, but what you walk through is just a place that you walk through. You can't reify it, because it's not physically there. It's if you know what I mean. It's not something that you can make something out of, you know, use the parts to make something else with, etc. I mean, you get the idea.
I get the idea. With the moon, it seems to me that it's self-illuminating because you can often see the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time in the daytime, and it's like there's nothing in the way. You'd think, therefore, that the sun, if it were lighting up the moon, you'd see a full moon at those times. It wouldn't go from crescent moon through to full and back again. Which makes me think, well, if you don't see a full moon all the time, when you see both luminaries in the sky at the same time, then surely the moon must self-illuminate.
Everything is self-illuminating. Every atom, every sun, moon, star, planet, whatever you know, the whatever your vocabulary potential is, all those words you've got in your head of items that you've seen and named and identified are all self-luminous. The moon acts more like it is concave than convex. So when you see that crescent on the inside there, and then you see nothing, you don't see any rock. I mean,
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about that. Yes.
yeah, well, it has a little bit of concavity to it, and so what happens is the part that is lighting up, that crescent, that's the outer part of the what your eye sees is the atoms. I don't know what kind of atoms they would be. There'd be carbon. It's plasma. The moon is plasma, but what elements are in that? I don't know. I suppose copper or iron, stuff like that. But what you're seeing is the part on the inside of the concave moon that is lighting up. You're seeing like this part here, and then it grows as the sun's angle causes, they say, the ancients, that the sun causes the moon to illuminate. It's because of the sun and only the sun that we can see the moon's luminosity. Otherwise, we wouldn't see it. Like we don't see, there are other planets out there that we can't see because the luminosity is not of the frequency that our eye can capture.
And how far away do you think the moon and the other luminaries are?
Well, the moon is in our under the firmament, which is, I would say, the outer wall of our atmosphere, which has 7 spheres in it. We have a thermosphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, ozone layer, and, well, atmosphere. But there are 7 of these spheres, and they are spheres because they are surrounding the Earth spherically, and like Russian nested dolls, they protect the Earth, and then the outer firmament is the major protection field around the Earth. And the Earth is the plane of inertia, planet of inertia in the middle of the torus field. It's a massive, massive creation. It's one of the most marvelous of all the creations of the Creator. In fact, all the angels, it says, when the earth was created, they all applauded. There was a glorious soniferous orchestra of a symphony of glory the day that this earth was constructed. And it was constructed in such a way that it will never, ever, 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 ever move. Well, that's what the scriptures, all of them say. The earth was made to be firm, terra firma, and stable for eternity. It's never moved a millimeter since the day it was created. Not a millimeter.
Are we growing because we're creating more people, or is that just changing the energy of one consciousness, like a plant or something, into us?
Well, we're living in an interesting time because the one has fragmented or expanded into many forms. We are still that one. We are still Christ and Krishna, whatever you want to call him, it doesn't matter, but we're still that one. But we're different now to that one, although we are still one. It's like, okay, you get married and you are so one with your partner, everything, you finish each other's sentences off, you love doing the same things, you're always together, and you just act as one. You turn, she turns, she wears blue, you wear blue. It's just a phenomenal thing that some people have these relationships where they are more one than two, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So when it comes to God, we will always be God. You can't detach yourself from God, and you can't say that, you know, I don't know who God is. I don't care. I don't know whether he exists or whether he doesn't. If you say that, you're just saying stupid drivel, because it's you with difference. So at this very present moment, God has differentiated into many, many forms, but some of those forms won't survive, and it doesn't want them to survive. They're too stupid. They are the chattel and the sheeple that run off and go, oh, the doctors, the government said I've got to take this medication, or I won't be able to eat or work or do anything. So I'll just go ahead and obey the government, and everything should be good, and then I'll be free. These people are so fucking stupid that they deserve to die, because that's what's going to happen. They will die.
if you put yourself in the planet's position or God or whatever, then what would a sensible move be? I feel that we are exactly as you say, one, just experiencing that tree outside is experiencing oneness as the tree. I'm experiencing oneness at me. It's just infinite possibility. The one wants to experience the infinite.
Yeah, I mean, I hear different teachers and all kinds of truthers saying this every day. I don't know of a day that goes past where I don't hear that we are all one, and we know this. We know it, but somehow we also forget it.
I
We
think
love to.
it depends if you've experienced it and experienced it enough times that it's you know what it is now.
Well, this is the thing. I experience it every day because I'm connected to that one. Ever since I was a child, I've never been detached from that one. That one is always there. I always feel the presence of that one. I cannot remove it. It's there and it's watching me. I'm watching myself. See, I'm talking here. Now, the only reason I can speak intelligently is because of that awareness. See, people who are detached from that one and talk, they sound like fools. They are mere intellectuals. They are not intelligent. An intellectual is not an intelligent individual. An intellectual can be a stupid jackass, but he can intellectualize. So the point I'm making is that when we work with that one and watch ourselves all the time, see, I'm watching what I'm saying. I'm not just saying stuff and whatever comes out. I'm watching it. I'm monitoring it. I'm making sure that I sound articulate and intelligent and logical and cohesive. I'm doing all of that at once. I'm listening to what you're saying and what you're not saying. I'm thinking of your audience and how they're going to accept this knowledge and whether they think I'm arrogant or confident or stupid or intelligent. And all of those things are always crossing my mind as I speak and do things. Therefore, I don't have to sit and meditate in the dark corner, for a half or an hour every day. I'm doing it all the time. That's my lifestyle. You don't say to a gypsy flamenco player, oh, you need to live your experience. You don't say to a bluesman, do you know the blues lifestyle? Because you can't be a blues musician if you're not living the blues lifestyle. There's a whole lifestyle that goes with being a blues musician. And if you don't live it, you're not an authentic blues musician or flamenco or jazz. Every different genre of music creates a subculture, and that has its own mindset. Think of the rappers. Think of the dark, the underground music scene. Think of the death metal crowd. I mean, I haven't met many death metal people, but I don't know what I'd talk about. I'd be like, so you listen to that shit, do you? And you call it music? I don't. I call it a bunch of crap. So, but they've got their own egregore controlling their thoughts. They don't have any original thoughts.
They've also found probably a frequency of anger, of disappointment, of frustration in the music, and they're resonating with those frequencies, because they don't know, they're lost, maybe they haven't.
Yeah, because their evolution is so low. They think they're actually high because they've got that music and it's rebellious, and they're cool because they're not like the sheeple, but they're another kind of sheeple. and more stupid than the sheeple that they condemn, because they think they're so intelligent because they're listening to thrash metal and death metal and music that sounds like a bunch of apes taking a shit. Boy, that was a big poo. And they listen to that music. They listen to guys going, what kind of baboons are these people? Fucking freaks. But they're there and they live their lifestyle. They're angry, they're debauched, they're reprobates, they're degenerates, and they're in our midst.
Yeah, yes, quite. So we've wiped out most of the population. How optimistic are you that things are going to end up rather well? And what do you think the time frame is? I mean, I can see some really quite good outcomes from everything.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, on one level, there's only one thing wrong, which is psychopaths running the place, and there
That's right. That's
there
right.
aren't that many of them, and you know, every country has got a mountain of servants, you know, civil servants who've just forgotten the definition of the word servant.
Well, actually, interesting that you should say servant, because they're not servants.
They're oppressors. They've taken
Well,
over.
well, see, they're officers and ministers. It's been changed. We used to have servants. We used to have police service. Now we have police officers and the Ministry of Police. So the ecclesiastical Roman Vatican Holy Curia, Holy See, Roman Curia, Holy See, Club of Rome has taken over all the services, the de jure constitutional services, and turned them into offices. An office is ecclesiastical, and ministries, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Foreign Diplomacy, whatever. They're all ministries, because the Vatican with Unidroit have taken over the world, and they are the New World Order, and they are the oppressors.
Yes, and what's going to be done about that? Is there an answer to that?
Well, we're doing it now. We're doing it by our awakening, brother.
Yes. I saw the Pope speak once at the Vatican, and he comes out on the balcony. So I was really quite young, and I was super shocked. It was quite crowded. The whole sort of, you know, circle was pretty much filled up, mainly with nuns, and I'm not exaggerating. They were having orgasms.
Yeah.
They were in ecstasy listening to him. It was quite bizarre. I was quite taken aback. It wasn't what I was expecting at all.
Well, you know, because it was demons, perverted demons, causing them to have what they think is a transcendental, holy experience. But the nuns are just being demonized, and the demons are perverts, so they will stimulate the sexuality of the individual rather than the spirituality. They are two different worlds, two different bodies, and they should not be mixed.
So, how can people overcome the hypnosis that's being given to them? I mean, they're not going to. They're getting hypnotized with every news broadcast, and I mean, the people who are in the mainstream, watching the mainstream media, are totally brainwashed, aren't they? Mind controlled, or another word. I mean, can you see a way out of that to get people out of that?
Yeah, the corporate media outlets, they're going to be shut down. The people are just going to shut them down.
Yeah.
They will be removed, and all of these reporters and presenters, they're not news anymore. They are entertainment.
Well, they're bought and paid for by most companies these days. I mean, you know, the primary advertiser used to be the pharmaceutical industry, and now it's governments for newspapers, and presumably the media is 100% propaganda. But yeah, just like they used to storm the TV stations in the old revolutionary movies, taking over the media is probably the only way.
Yeah, we'll do it. That's coming. It's the writing's on the wall. It's only a matter of time. There's no way they can continue spewing out lies. No one believes them. No one really listens to them that has a shred of intelligence. We're talking about really stupid, dumb, moronic people that actually believe anything that Channel 9 and Channel 10 and Channel 7 and CBS and whatever are telling them. Only the stupidest of the stupid are actually watching those channels. Rest assured.
Yes, it's unfortunate. It's just so many of them. So, where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Quintana Roo, Mexico.
Ah, right, nice. And you're going up to an Acapulco?
Sorry?
You're going up to go to an Acapulco?
No, that's on the other side. It's too far
Right.
for me.
I like Mexico. What's it like been like for you?
Mexico's been great for me. Great. I've had a few bad things happen, but in all, this is the place where I want to be. I'll stay here forever. I'm not going away from Mexico. It's just too good. Mexico's just too good.
I bet somebody told me a funny thing the other day. They said, "Well, which would you prefer? A government run by a criminal cartel, like most governments are, or a government run by a drug cartel?" And the difference is that at least a government run by a drug cartel doesn't force you to take their drugs.
That's right. Yeah, the cartel here is keeping the government in check, which is giving the people a certain amount of freedom, which they don't really realize they've got. Mexicans are very obedient and they're all going around with their masks on and not questioning things. But in the back of their mind, they know there's something wrong with it. They just don't want to cause trouble. They really don't want confrontation. They just want to live free. They just want to live their lives, do their work, and be happy. That's all they want. They're not complicated people. They're very simple, very simple.
And have you been up to Chiran to see what the zone up there is like?
No.
I know quite a few people who've lived there and visited it, and I mean it's an interesting example of how the people can take their sovereignty back and chuck the government and the police and the army and the drug cartels out and get away with it now. What, 13 years or something they've been an autonomous zone. I met some of the leaders of Chiran when I was in Mexico, and I asked them, well, why haven't the government taken Chiran back? And they said, well, they don't dare because the whole state is so rebellious that if they made a play to take Chiran back, that the whole state might rebel. You know the story about the logging and how the Chiran thing started?
Is that in Chiapas?
It is, I can't remember quite where it is, sort of west from Mexico City and up a bit, I think. But Chiran, Cheran. So
yeah, I've heard of it, but
the story that they told me was that about 13 years ago, or maybe more now, I can't remember, probably a bit more, it was so corrupt that it was one of the most dangerous towns to be in. Even if you weren't a drug dealer, it was dangerous. And there were people coming in with machine guns and trucks, cutting down the forest and stealing it with the blessing of the corrupt government and the army and the police. So the women armed themselves to the teeth and threw out the police at gunpoint. Then they threw out the army at gunpoint, they threw out the politicians at gunpoint, and some of the drug cartel guys left. The ones who didn't got killed. They put a sniper up in a bell tower and picked them off until the drug cartels left and crime essentially stopped. They put roadblocks on the roads in and out of the area, and if they ask you questions like, are you a politician? And if you say yes, they won't let you in. And so everything's changed. Life has changed dramatically. And apparently a few people on a Saturday night might get drunk and do something silly, but crime as such has ended. They're running their own affairs. And there are 3 other autonomous zones as well in Mexico.
Yeah, I know about them. Yeah, they're fed up with the governments and they've taken things to their own hands. There's even a couple of states which do exercise a measure of sovereignty, but again, still corruption has worked its way into those states and changed them a little bit so that they're now complying and doing things that they wouldn't normally, do.
Yeah, well, at least there's hope in Mexico. That when all the time I was in Mexico, I didn't see any chemtrails, which was different to most other parts of the world. Have you seen chemtrails at all?
Yeah, here in Quintana Roo, there's chemtrails. Once every 10 days, you'll see the spraying, because here is tourist.
Oh, I see.
So they like to
Remind them of home.
exactly. Yeah.
What about the insect thing where you are? Are the insects ever a problem?
Nope, not for me.
Oh, that's good. But where I was, the only problem was accidentally meeting a scorpion when you didn't want to pick up the to clean the sofa, pick up the cushions, and quite often there'd be a rather nasty scorpion just waiting there. You go hunting for them with blue lights.
Where were you?
I was. I stayed in a few places over a few years, going to an Acapulco. So I was mainly in the Acapulco type.
All right.
It was quite nice. I could have if it hadn't been for kids and stuff, I could have easily just moved in permanently there.
Everything in Mexico is nice. It's like Australia. It's got deserts, it's got mountains, it's got snow, it's got beaches. It's to me, the countryside is reminiscent of back home, but the culture is way deeply ingrained and still intact. The indigenous people, they still know all their languages and rituals and ceremonies, and they still practice them. So it's a blessing to be here in Mexico. Mexico is one of the 3 most spiritual and advanced nations in the world, from ancient times. Like Egypt, India, and Mexico, for me, are the meccas. They're not spread out. They're not losing their tradition. Some are being decimated, but the Mayans here, for instance, they're all community minded. They're all very together people.
And from the little I saw from a health perspective, there still seemed to be a certain respect in some places for sort of the herbal traditions and so on. Have you seen a lot of stuff here and there?
Oh, yeah. They know all their herbs. They know all their homeopathic treatments. Oh, yeah. They are right on all of that. They have not lost any knowledge.
And any particular herbs that you've come across that perhaps aren't well enough known about, if known about at all, that you can suggest?
Not by name, but I've got a bag of herbs, Mayan herbs. There's about 20 different herbs in there, and that's for sleep. So it induces a sleep-like state, and then it's easy to get a good night's sleep. But I drink those Mayan herbs, and it's very important to do that wherever you are. You eat the food, the local food, wherever you are.
Yes, quite. Um, the local foods in England tend to be fish and chips, deep fried in some very unpleasant, unnatural oil.
I know. It's like eating dog poo.
It's uh, where I live has suddenly got an organic shop, so it's suddenly become a dream to live here, whereas before it was quite difficult to find real food. I used to have an organic farm for 10 years, but that was out in Spain. That was fantastic. We had spring water off the grid, growing food.
So you lived in Spain?
I used to. Now I'm back in England. The children
Nice. You
grow.
would have loved Spain.
It's like Mexico light.
Yeah, for sure.
So waking people up, the problem is they've got to deal with their sort of toxic shame that if they do wake up and have to admit that everything they've ever been taught is wrong, is a very difficult thing for people to do. I've just been talking with a group of people who are rebels on roundabouts. We've come across rebels on roundabouts. There are all sorts of groups that spun off from that, like banners on bridges. And basically it's just people taking it upon themselves or as small groups to start protesting by the side of the road with lots of signs. And we were discussing, well, what can you tell people that actually they'd care? Because, and what it really comes down to is, I think, maybe explain to people that the risk is global domination by people who want a one world currency, and trying to appeal to the fact that suddenly they're going to, they're losing their freedom, they're already doing that, they're losing money, maybe is one of the ways to get people to wake up. Do you realise what's going to happen if the social credit system comes in? How poor you're going to be. I mean, I don't know. I'm still looking for answers to wake people up. I don't know if you've got any good ones.
Well, it's neither here nor there because we're going to. What did you have a question?
No, not really. Most people I interview tend to be quite pessimistic at the moment, and I'm trying to be hugely optimistic.
Well, we don't have any other choice but to be optimistic because in the end we win. Whether we win the war against the controllers or not doesn't matter. We win because we've stood up against them and we're not sheeple. So we're winners and we're going to stay winners and we're going to go to the place where winners go when we leave these bodies, and they will be losers forever. So it really doesn't matter whether we win now, whether there's bloodshed, whether people die in them billions, whether the controllers kill everybody, doesn't matter. Because when you make your stand, you align with the higher evolution, and that's where you go. You go there. You go to the best place by your best actions now. Now is how you make a better place later.
I tend to think that. I mean, possibly you've had the same experiences, but I've found myself at places that are beyond death, and so from that situation, death doesn't become a frightening thing anymore. And when I was 15, I found myself floating on the ceiling, looking down at myself, and I was in the middle of doing some exams, which I hated, and suddenly I was free. It was like just fantastic, and I'm on the fucking ceiling. And the worst thing that's happened is I suddenly found myself back in my body again. It was very disappointing.
Of course.
But I started having some out-of-body experiences and discovered different places that you might go, which was interesting.
Right. Well, that's a blessing. I've had that experience as well. And I think everybody gets one or two of those as a reminder, it's a natural occurrence for people to be able to see outside of their bodies what they actually look like and what is important, what isn't important, because in that space you have all access to all thoughts. So you know what you're looking at, and you know the limitations of the individual in the flesh that you're looking at, and how they are limiting themselves and how they are making bad decisions and everything like that. So it helps you to take a different course in life. Now you start seeing things on a different frequency like you didn't before.
So there's fantastic wildlife going on outside my window, which is distracting me slightly. I put up a
Yeah, I've got the same problem back here. I live on a busy street, and there's always someone stopping in the front of my house all the time and having a loud conversation, sometimes in the night. I don't know why they don't go to someone else's house, or maybe they are. Maybe they're everywhere, but it seems to me that they all like to stop in front of my house. I don't know what it is about my place, and have a drunk, uh, conversation about nothing. All sorts of laughing and carrying on, and it's just it's sad for me. It's sad because I think to myself, people have to get drunk and full of food. They have to be gluttons, and then they're laughing at silly jokes, and that's it. That's what makes them tick and be happy. Wow, I'm glad I am me. I'm really glad that I am me.
Well, that's it with the world. So many people just have had all their inspiration and intuition and creativity smashed out of them by school, and they have lost why they're here. They've forgotten the whole reason they signed up for the adventure, so to speak.
Yeah, they've forgotten themselves. Of course, they've detached themselves from source, and it's all about the trauma. Um, when they come into the world, they get a spanking, they get a needle, they get stuck in an incubator, they get powdered milk because mothers aren't really supposed to breastfeed their children because that's old.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore. We've got cans of shit that we can give children now, babies. And it's got all these things on it. Look at the label. Let's see, look, it's got this and that. And mother's milk doesn't have all this. So, the kids, and then they get circumcised. Children don't even know what's going on. They get all this pain. They get needles, they get circumcised, they get pulled out of their mothers with these, what do they call them, biceps or whatever. Huh?
Forceps, except now
Oh, forceps.
most birds uh, are where it's not a vaginal birth, because when they sell the stem cells from the placenta and the umbilical cord, they don't they want to do a cesarean because that comes out sterile. In Brazil now it's something like 85% of all births are now cesareans,
And why do they do that?
because they believe that the baby, a baby's meant to go through the vaginal canal, so it picks up all the friendly bacteria from mum and is protected for the rest of its life. But they believe, this is what I'm told, that if they just extract it with cesarean, then it hasn't been through that process, so essentially it comes out sterile, so they can steal the stem cells. It's
Right.
a satanic type of thing that's going on in hospitals. It's
Yep.
incredible. Did you know that babies have language on the day they're born?
Yeah, of course. Of course they do.
Yeah. I've got maybe you know about it, but I've got a club called the Secret Health Club where there's all sorts of this sort of information, like how to hear what your baby's saying on the day it's born, how to recognise the sounds with lots of examples. There's another one I put up where I interviewed a friend of mine who's a psychic, and she teaches children how to see without their eyes. So completely
Yes,
blindfolds them.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, just incredible. And often it's 5 minutes just to teach them how to use this other method of sight.
Beautiful.
You know, I was
Yeah.
in ophthalmic optics years ago, and I was reading then, this is 40 years ago, about Russian children who are blind, who are trained to see with their fingertips.
Yeah.
And there seem to be all sorts of ways to, I don't know, find a psychological way to to open children up to what they have but don't realize.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Children have many, many, many amazing abilities, which we laugh at. Actually, we giggle and think that they're too they're too uh, reduced in consciousness to be able to be actually making any real sense in the real big logical adult world. But that's why Jesus said, if you don't become as these children, you will not enter God's kingdom. So don't think you intellectuals, you Pharisees and scribes and Sadducees and lawyers, don't think that you're going to anywhere place, because um, we're protecting the good place for good people, and you thugs, there's a special place for you. Thank you very much.
When I was young, maybe about 10 or 11, I had an experience that might interest you. What happened was I was out in very clear water. You could see the fish. It's actually in the Bahamas, and super clear. You could see the fish. And we had a bucket with a glass bottom, so you could put the bucket in the water and you could see everything crystal clear. And there's me and somebody else in a small dinghy with 2 fishing rods. And I'd had huge problems with this because we had live bait, and I had to put the live wriggling thing on the hook, which I hated doing, but I was dreading taking the hook out of the fish's mouth, just dreading it. The person I was with, he didn't give a shit, he didn't care, he was looking forward to eating them, right? He catches 20 fish, and I'm 10, let's switch, must be your fishing rod. We switched fishing rods, and immediately we could see what's happening. The fish see that he's no longer touching the fishing rod and move to the rod that I was previously holding, right? We did this all afternoon, and what I caught was sunstroke, and he caught a whole bundle of fish. And the only conclusion I could come to is the fish were reading my mind. That the fish knew that he was happy to catch fish, and they were literally giving themselves up to him, you might say, but they absolutely were not going to give themselves up to me. And that was sort of quite a wake-up experience.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, and I also realised I certainly wasn't capable of reading their minds. And it was just literally the touch down a thin bit of whatever, nylon or whatever it was. So yeah, funny old place, the world.
It's a funny old place, man. It's because it's stranger than we can think. It's not stranger than we think. It's stranger than we can think.
Yes, quite.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well,
Perhaps at another time we could talk about some things that people could do health-wise, because there are ways. In the last year, I've had all sorts of people who have come off addictive substances of all types really easily, including medications, where normally they might suffer for a month or something if they want to stop.
That'll be
There
a
are a
great.
number of things like that that I can talk about, which people sort of need to know.
That'll be a great conversation. I'll be in that. I've got a lot of good information.
Cool.